So we're up to mobile malware here. I've tried to find some modern sources for information about how much Android malware there is out there, and I could not find any data that really makes any sense at all, except Google's report that's more than a year old now, because they put it out in April of each year, and it's not time for the 2016 report. But anyway, here's one source that just shows the usual thing. The number of samples is going up and up and up. That's what you'd expect. Every kind of malware has been showing that trend for at least 10 years. The really early stuff, even before Android, there was stuff for Palm OS, which I think is now completely extinct. Does anybody use Palms anymore? I haven't heard of them in years. Kabir was one that infected Symbian phones. These things, I don't think these things were even smartphones. Well, they're not in the modern sense, but they had some ability to install apps, and this thing would supposedly spread by Bluetooth. And it did ask you for permissions, but at this time, nobody knew what those meant. Anyway, the best report I could find with anything that made any sense was a Google report. This is generally the case with malware. Google and Microsoft make reports from the operating system vendor, from whatever ability they have to detect malware, which is very minimal, and then antivirus companies publish stuff that wildly contradicts everything all the other antivirus companies say, which just seems to be highly influenced by marketing. So it's very hard to get any straight answers about malware. But anyway, one thing Google talked was their smart lock, which I didn't know. Android 5.0 has apparently a smart lock, which means you don't have to keep putting in your PIN every time you restart your phone. It will detect if you haven't moved your phone away from you lately and not make you put in the PIN by various techniques. It can use your face to recognize you. It can use Bluetooth to recognize that it's still near your body and so on. And they say this is going to be pretty popular. Something like half the people are now using this smart lock. So it's using one of these other technologies to tell if it has left your vicinity. And if it has not left your vicinity, you don't have to unlock it, which does sound pretty cool. They ought to have a version of this for iOS. It's not a bad idea, or even OS 10. And then this is what Google regards as potentially harmful apps. So in their opinion, about 1% of devices have potentially harmful apps on them, which is an interesting issue, and of course it's in the issue, yeah.
I just have a question about the except routing. Do you know what exactly they exclude by that?
They have a lot of description of it. I didn't bother with the details much. But that's a tough one, because I think the point is, the evidence is very clear that Google has a very small ability to really detect malware. They only seem to detect about 20% of the malware that's there. The same thing's true of Microsoft. They talk about their malicious software removal tool, and they're only seeing a small amount of malware. That's the problem. You only have two choices. You have the OS manufacturers, who almost seem to not even recognize most of the malware, and you have the antivirus companies, who have a large financial desire to inflate the numbers to the largest number possible, and those are the two sources of data. Yeah.
Are pups identified as malware by the antivirus companies?
People argue greatly. And that's what these things, potentially unwanted applications, I think are like pups. Pups is the most important kind of malware infecting PCs, where you have these things like the pop-up ads and change your homepage and your search page, and technically they're not malware because it doesn't spread, and it's not a virus, and technically you agreed to this by installing a driver to see a movie or something. So if you put them in any virus engine, they will sue your company and say, how dare you call us a virus? We're a desirable, valuable software. People want us. They agree to put it on. And MBAM is the only company I know willing to detect it on a PC and put up with the lawsuits. Anyway, one thing they showed is that Google Play is somewhat effective at cleaning up. They say it's 10 times more dangerous to install stuff outside Google Play than inside Google Play. I would hope so. Here's the people with potentially unwanted harmful apps, and they say these are the ones outside Google Play, and these are the ones inside Google Play. So most of those harmful apps are from non-Google Play sources, which makes sense. Although what people tell me is if you're in China, which is a huge part of the market, you can't get to Google Play because the Great Firewall slows it down or blocks it. So you have to use local dangerous sources that are all full of malware. That's why the malware infection rate is pretty bad over there. Anyway, I thought it's interesting. This is what Google does to detect malicious apps. And if you take in the malware analysis class, you should be familiar terms. Static analysis is where you analyze the code without running the app to try to recognize patterns of code that are bad. Dynamic analysis is usually the most powerful tool, where you run it in some kind of sandbox, like an emulated Android phone, and then you look for it doing things it shouldn't do, like sending sensitive data out the network card or recording keystrokes or something. This is more dangerous because the malware is actually running in that environment, and it might do something bad while it's in that environment, which already happened to Google, but it's a simple way to detect malicious activity. It's also very easy to fool this. the simplest way to fool dynamic analysis is to just make malware that doesn't do anything bad for some period of time. Because how long can they waste waiting for it to do a bad thing? Probably a few seconds. So if you just wait 30 seconds before doing the bad thing, they will have decided it's harmless by then. They look at third-party reports and security researchers that report malware. They try to develop relationships with developers, which is mighty hard when you let people make free accounts under 10 false names and keep changing their name, which is the fundamental problem with this system, but to some extent they can do that. They have signatures, which we've talked about before. A signature might identify an app, but it certainly doesn't do much else when you don't enforce the signature being public. And that's something they call safety net and heuristic analysis. So, this is what they do. All these techniques, all antivirus companies will tell you the same thing. They do all these things, but it's amazing how ineffective the end result is. Anyway, Sophos went and looked at the top 10 Android malware, reported this last month. And as you can see, they found quite a lot of malware. And the most popular one was PornClick. The biggest, 20% of their cases. CMS Center from China is the next one, and an Android rootkit. And I think there was only one ransomware in here, and it wasn't that big a thing. Anyway, this PornClick would download additional APKs, create shortcuts, collect sensitive information, and on it goes. Anyway, so there is some Android malware out there, and you can certainly find it if you look for it. So here's some historical stuff from the book about Android malware. Droid Dream was one of the really big important ones because this was the first big one, I think, to hit the Google Play Store. So what this did was they modified existing apps to add Trojan code to them, exactly like you're doing in the project. When people tell me that doesn't matter, nobody would do that, I say, you really aren't paying attention. People totally did that. They added this malware to these apps. Just like if you go to SourceForge or other places that are getting sleazy, they will add extra stuff to the apps you download, like free trial of antivirus or something. I think SourceForge started doing that. That's why people went to Git. So Droid Dream infected them. The app would be Trojan, so then when you install it, it will ask for a whole lot more permissions than it used to install, that it used to ask for, network communications and such. Then it will launch a settings service which will steal private information and send it to a remote server. And this is exactly what will happen if you like Google for an important piece of software like Nmap, go to some third-party source for Nmap, you'll get Nmap plus an outside bundler which installs crap on your machine that spies on you, like the Google toolbar and stuff like that. Yahoo, so it seems to be sending your homepage to Yahoo and putting on a trial version of some antivirus and nastier things too. This thing then roots your device without telling you, hijacks the app, and makes it a bot under remote control. So Google, of course, when they found out, they took it out of the store, but 50,000 to 200,000 people were infected before this happened. Nicky Spy is another one that gets added to other software like a Trojan, and then when you reboot, it shows this screen. It launches extra services. It doesn't show them to you, but it launches a bunch of extra services, and these steal your private information, and they record voice phone calls, and they turn on the microphone to record sound near the phone even when it's not in use, which is pretty harsh, and I wonder how a criminal thought they were going to get money off of that. I can see how a spy agency might want that, but why would a criminal want to just hear every conversation around your phone? Yeah.
Blackmail.
Well, I guess, but I guess you could blackmail somebody, but I don't understand how you can make an automated process that would understand the speech and decide who to blackmail. Otherwise, you're going to have to listen to how many thousand hours people ordering pizza and arguing with their mates and stuff. Anyway.
I would, if it were me,
yeah,
and I was an attacker, first thing I would do is I'd go through all of my various bots, and I'd see who they belong to.
Yeah.
I'd run that through a list of important people.
Okay.
And then if there was anybody important,
yeah,
I would turn on their microphone, record things, either sell trade secrets or anything along those lines.
Well, that's a good idea, yeah. Anyway, Android changed their model in 2.3 so that if your app turns on things like turning on the microphone, it has to pop up a box and warn you about that first, which is a pretty good idea. So they can't do these things covertly. Then there was a Chinese app, which is pretty cute. This was SMS Zombie. It was a wallpaper app. So when it installed, it needed no permissions at all, because you don't need to access any part of the hardware to change the wallpaper. So the original thing does nothing wrong. What it does is once it's installed, it then pops up a box with a confusing thing, install to get 100 points, to try to get you to click to agree to install this other thing, and that thing asks for all kinds of permissions. So they're probably hoping that you're playing games on your phone and you think this has something to do with one of your games or something like that. But you know, I certainly know that people will click on anything. I mean, I've had students doing projects in the lab, and an important error message comes up, and they just click it and go forward and then say, why isn't my lab working? Because they're just in a reflex of, if an error message pops up, you wipe that off the screen like a fly landing on the window and keep going. And that's the instinct most people have. So then it's administrator. Once it has become a device administrator, it can then send all the SMS messages to a third party and scan them all to delete all the ones that appear to be warning you that this is happening. Anything telling you about fraudulent SMS transactions. And then they can just send SMSs that make them money. That's been an old trick for years. I must have been I was part of a restitution program maybe 20 years ago for something that would infect your Windows 95 machine, then turn off the sound on the modem, and then dial all your calls long distance through Moldova, and then bill you like $20 a minute for long distance Moldova for your 56K internet connection. So you'd get a phone bill for like $1,000 at the end of the month, which if people would just protest at the phone company, and the phone company would give them back their money. So it was a pretty ineffective scam, but technically, it was cute, and that's the point here. A lot of these Chinese ones will cause you to do something that costs money. Anyway, I got some iClicker questions. All right, so which malware was primarily distributed by Google Play? All right, and that was Droid Dream. Good, a popular answer. Which one starts with no permissions and escalates later? That up there might work better. All right, that's SMS Zombie. Good, a popular answer. Which one? Turn on the microphone to record sounds. Anyway, it's Nikki Spy. So then there's banking malware. You can put keyloggers and other things on your Windows, which will allow you to modify HTTP and HTTPS traffic. So you can steal HTTP traffic before it hits the network, before it gets encrypted, just like you can with keyloggers. So that's not good. So in order to prevent this, banks are moving to two-factor authentication slowly, where you have two supposedly independent sources. And this only works if you have two independent things. So it should be your password and something else, like your IP address or something. And what they often use is an SMS to your phone as the second factor. The problem is, so that your phone is actually connected to your PC sometimes. So this gives the attacker an opportunity to subvert this. But what they call this is a mobile transaction number. They send an SMS to your phone with a number in it. You type in that number in addition to your password to get into your app. That's fine. So there's malware to defeat it. Here's how Zeus works. They will infect your PC. Then they will add pages to your traffic to make you feel like you should be installing trustier mobile security software. Ads will pop up in pages. And once you do, that goes on your phone. And of course, now that it's on your phone, that stuff steals the SMS and sends it back to the same criminal. So now they have the SMSs and your HTTPS traffic, and they can totally get in your bank account. Then there's fake token is another one. This tricks you into installing something called Token Generator on your phone, and that again copies the SMS messages. So it steals them. It can also steal your contact list to send spam to it, I suppose. And this is the one I mentioned before. Charlie Miller and other people decided to test Google's Bouncer, which is their automated dynamic analysis tool. And so they wrote malware targeting Bouncer so that when it ran in Google's sandbox, it would phone home and place the sandbox under remote control, opening a shell. So apparently Google's sandbox runs connected to the internet, not to fake internet or anything. And then after they took over, had a shell on Bouncer, they broke out of Bouncer onto Google's real network and started mapping it out and finding everything they've got, which is the kind of stuff you can only do at a private company. I mean, this is highly illegal. And like I say, this is the fundamental issue with this business, is everything fun is illegal. So you have to take a certain amount of legal risk to do anything exciting. And private companies are often willing to wade very deeply into the deep waters where we can't go here in the public sector. Yeah.
Wouldn't this possibly go under Google's bug bounty program? And so they would have permission to do it in that sense?
Possibly, but this was back in 2012 when I don't think Google had a bug bounty program. And usually when they do, there's all kinds of restrictions. So what happens is actually a lot of people just ignore all this and break the law boldly to get places, get things done. And in fact, then they ask themselves, is Google really going to prosecute me? And they ask a lawyer, you know, it's like Rapid7. They scanned the entire internet. Fielder scanned the whole internet just to find what ports were open. And he got thousands of legal complaints, and he convinced people he was a public service, and he didn't actually get prosecuted. But Rapid7 scans the entire internet for vulnerabilities, and they exploit them to find out what's running on the machine, they use BIOS ports to find out what processes are running on Windows machines, and they rate them to determine which ones are malicious, all without permission for the entire internet. And they do it every day and publish the results. And they're doing it in partnership with the Department of Homeland Security, which probably helps give their program a higher reputation, but it doesn't make it legal. And they're doing it anyway. And they hired Jennifer Granick, and she wrote on a page saying, I analyzed this is totally illegal, but they decided to mitigate the risk by publishing openly the results and trying to convince everybody they're one of the good guys and you should let them off the hook. So that's what the people told us at B-Sides year before last. They said, everything you're doing is illegal, but you can trust us to only prosecute the bad guys. I said, well, I guess that's where we're at, yeah.
It was a really interesting story posted, I think yesterday, where there are groups that phish user accounts for locked iPhones so that they can get the password and unlock it and then sell it. So it turns out that someone received this link to a phishing site, and then they gave it to a security researcher. So then the researcher went to that server, and they found that they were able to find the admin interface and log in because the site leaked some information.
Yeah.
Once they did that, they found that the administrator of the site actually phished themselves to test their stuff. So they had their real iCloud email and iCloud password, and they were able to use that to log into their iCloud account because they didn't have two-factor. And they found that there's this whole operation for phishing scams for locked devices, and that the person lives in Ecuador. And they were able to basically have everything about him just because he had this site and he had everything.
Yeah. This happens a lot. This is a fun thing to do. I was going to give it to students for homework before I found out how completely illegal and dangerous it was. Go to your spam inbox, find those links, go to the evil servers, hack in and steal their stuff back. It's easy to do. Attack servers are usually insecure. The problem is those people are not nice people. Some of them are really in the mob, and they will send someone to knock on your door to have a conversation you don't want to have. And also, it's totally illegal. But the people who don't worry about that do it. Of course, what's the odds that a criminal will press charges? Not very high, but they might have other ways of making you unhappy that you did this. Yeah.
So for this example, they didn't publish who did this. They just said it was some anonymous person who did this research.
Yeah.
So that person who actually is doing the bad thing couldn't get back.
That's the idea, yeah. Well, there's different techniques. Anyway, in the academic world, you have to be much more squeaky clean than that. Like, I know one thing is you can get Viagra for $1 a pill online, or you can pay like $30 to $50 to get it through a pharmacy. And it's probably exactly the same stuff, but nobody knows. And there's a chemical researcher for years that has wanted to buy a bunch of the cheap Viagra from spam sites online and analyze it, but you can't do it with government money. It is illegal to take a government grant and spend that to buy criminal stuff, like stolen Viagra, like pirate drugs. And he tried to get an independent company to sponsor this, which would be Pfizer. And Pfizer said they will pay for the research, but only if they get to vet it before he publishes. Because if the illegal stuff is as good, they want to suppress that answer. And he refused that condition. So far, this has never been done. But it's tough. You know, there's a lot of hassle to be a good guy. But the reward is you don't have to go to jail. So anyway, you can actually have a job. Your boss can actually trust you, you know. Anyway, so that's how he hacked Bouncer. Like I say, they exploited Bouncer, and then they found ways to defeat Bouncer and hack into the Google network and see what they were doing. And like I say, this is pretty clear. The Google Application Verification Service is Bouncer and other things. And this is the Google ability to detect malware compared to everything else, all the other commercial antivirus products, which they didn't have the guts to identify by name. But the point is, same thing's true of Microsoft. Microsoft recently had to admit that their built-in antivirus, Windows Defender, is completely useless, and you have to have other antivirus on top of it. The same thing's true of Google's antivirus. Something's wrong with having an OS designer detect malware. I suppose they know too much about the OS, and they're stuck in a certain mindset of how things should be, and they don't think creatively as other people. But anyway, you have to get real AV. Avast one, yeah.
I tried one of the projects on a Windows 10 at home on a desktop.
Yeah.
It saw my project as a virus and took it off, but when I scanned it with a virus scanner, it found other virus that it didn't see.
And what project was that?
One of the malware class.
Oh, well, that stuff is pretty malicious. That stuff is totally set up for virus scanners. Oh, yeah, that's right.
But a real one on there didn't pick it up.
Right, the real one might actually know that it's test virus.
The
Windows Defender picked it up.
But another virus scanner found the other one that was actually a really
Okay.
virus.
Yeah. Yeah, virus scanners are very random and very weak. Anyway, all right, then there's iOS malware. Well, not really. There really isn't much. I don't think there's any case of any actual spreading malware that did any real harm. There's a few cases where people proved that could be done, making iOS malware. Fake update only for jailbroken devices written by an 11-year-old would break a couple of dames and stuff. Then there was guy that pushed ransomware onto phones in November 2009. And the Australian teenager that wrote the iKey worm that rickrolled phones, only if they were jailbroken with the default password. The only example of real malware in the Apple Store was Find and Call in 2012. This would actually steal your contents and send SMS spam to the contents. So that's kind of nasty, but didn't really do much harm. So it is not like there has been zero iPhone malware, just almost zero, enough that you really don't have to worry about it. Anyway, the huge difference. One difference is market share. Android has most of the market. iPhone is a small bit, so perhaps it's a less lucrative target. The app approval process is more painful for App Store. You can get the codes to develop apps for free, and you can write code, but you can't put it in the App Store without paying $99, and when you send it up to them, it takes them some time to approve it. Now, people got tired of it taking a long time, and I found a page that rates how long it's taking, and they say the average time is now 3 days to approve your app at Apple, which is nice. Google used to let them up immediately in like 5 or 10 minutes. Now Google has added a supposed human manual review to the process, so now it takes like an hour or two to update to Google, but it's still a lot faster and free. You can do it for free. You can, if you're going to pay $25. So it's cheaper to make Android apps, but then you won't make any money because Android users are cheap. They won't pay anything for anything. iPhone people think nothing of paying $5 or $10 for an app, so you make a lot of money with iPhone apps. If you put the same amount of work into Android apps, you make pocket change. You can have third-party app stores on Android. There's a lot of them. I would think the largest is probably the Amazon App Store for the Kindle Fire, which is appalling. As far as I can tell, nothing there ever gets updated. So when I have these projects where you're using an old version of something, and I say if they ever patch it, I'll put the old version here. You could also just go to the Android store, where you can get 2 years out-of-date versions of every app. Because I don't know what's wrong there, but there seems to be no ability for people to update their apps there, or they don't bother. And then, of course, there's third-party app stores around. You can just put them on websites and such. So, where's the scanner used by Google? All right. And here it is. That's Bouncer. Good. All right. What's the bank's defense? All right, that's two-factor authentication, of course. It's a pretty good idea, although it tends to be implemented in a pretty sloppy way. Which one rickrolled your phone? All right, and that was iKey. I bet it's some joke that I don't get. Most of these things are. All right, what was the malicious app in the Apple App Store? You don't get too many of them. All right, and that was Find and Call. There you go. All right. So, that's it for that. That was my education.